Hello, guys. Joao Fonseca, Mariano Navone, reopen quarterfinals. I've just read an entire analysis of how a potential Nori against Fonseca matchup will look, and I'm not sure if the guy that I've read it from realizes that there's still a match to be played here. That Cam Nori still hasn't learned who will be his semifinal opponent, and I'm not really sure where that confidence is coming from. But I guess if someone, I'm assuming, only watched Fonseca's first two matches in Rio, he will be expecting something incredible from him in every match, which obviously with time probably will come. But well, after all, the guy is still 17. He's had some nightmare performances this year already. Let's see if he can keep the magic going. As definitely this, the whole panache, the crowd, definitely it's been helping him to keep focus as well. Navone has already broken the top 100 this week. As a matter of fact, his first round match would have been enough, but then he also beats Hanfman at the loss of just 3 games. Probably his best performance of the Golden Swing so far. Let's see if he can keep up with Fonseca and yeah, just how snappy the Brazilian's game will be today. Hello, Ashley. Welcome again. As I believe you were there at the stream earlier today on Świątek Kalinskaya as well. Right now, we're switching to the ATP and we're switching to a very exciting match for sure. We've played once before. It was a second round at a challenger in Sao Leopoldo. It was, I think, Fonseca's third challenger. In his first one, interestingly, he got double bageled. I don't even remember who the opponent was. Maybe Jose Pereira, but I'm not even sure. But yeah, obviously he was, it was just his first professional appearance. Doesn't matter. Then he, I think, lost in the Rio qualies to Jakob Paul, and then he plays Sao Leopoldo, and that was an insane run. He beats Tirante, he beats Navone, he loses a very decent match to Bagnis, and against Navone he was in fact 1-3 down in the third set. He saved 2 match points and won this 11-9 tiebreak. Of course, that was Fonseca. Well, for him, a year, even a month, sometimes can mean so much in the development. Whereas Navone actually also improved so much since. So I don't think Navone was the same player either. Did he miss it? I don't think he landed it. Yeah, so Fonseca will have a breakpoint right away. Returning very well so far, just jumping onto Navone here, and Mariano can't quite hit that forehand back into the court. So yeah, I think basically the Sao Leopoldo match from 2022, it's not that relevant for today, but anyway, it kind of tells you something that even at that very early stage of his career, and he's still at a very early stage of his career, Fonseca was able to beat Navone, was able to be competitive with him. Obviously, he's a player with insane potential. The way he's been hitting his backhand, by the way, this week has been just incredible, and so not comparable to what he was doing earlier this year, losing to Popko, Lavagno, Comesania, and that backhand never really looked like such a good shot. And I mean, this week it's been insane, and he breaks here. Just too much pop for Navone so far. Ah, the WTA San Diego, the best event in the world. Can't wait for all the content from Barbara Krejcikova, Emma Navarro, Sofia Kenin. I love laughing about it, but of course San Diego is a fine event. But I do love laughing when Vanch just tries to make it out to be, even more. And to his credit, Emma Navarro's rise did start in San Diego, sort of. Anyway, that first break for Fonseca, again, just, the ferocity of his hitting right away was insane. Navone is, of course, a very good scrambler, a very good counter puncher, but so far Fonseca is kind of blowing him off the court. It's just the first few points, though. He basically hasn't made an error so far, so let's see how that continues. But especially the backhand hitting this week has been insane. Forehand drop shot here from Fonseca, and he tries to pass Navone. Does he make it? I think they might be checking the mark. I would assume it's out, yeah. Fonseca the drop shot was pretty cool. He was like falling backwards, not an easy shot. However, eventually he was forced to play this forehand pass, and he added a little too much spin on it, a little too much shape. Anyway, 15-0. That should be a stronger point, although Navone's lob can be quite well. I thought Navone's moonball can be a little tricky, but it's just Fonseca letting it bounce and cleaning it up easily. So far with how he's hitting, I mean, he's just not really allowing Navone any freedom. I know Navone perhaps might not be, the most aggressive player in the world, but he's a bit like a Federico Coria with weapons. He is a fantastic ball striker. I think there's a lot of similarities between him and Arnaldi, for example, and how they strike the ball. And so far, he hasn't really been able to do that, to show that. He's just pushed right away by Fonseca. By the way, last year when Joao Fonseca played Rio, he only won 3 games against Alex Molchan, and it was such a nervy and tense showing. Obviously, these experiences really allow a player to do better next time around as well. But I remember how a lot of people were like, oh, that kid isn't really that good, or like, it's too early. But if someone watched his Sao Leopoldo run, which I mentioned when he beat Tirante Navone and then lost to Bagnis, then they knew that Fonseca was, level wise ready. Just had to get that one tough experience in, I guess. And so far, he's been flying this week with the home crowd. And I actually think that the home crowd is a big factor here in like allowing him to maintain the highest level of focus all the time. And also seemingly that backhand improvement, which is kind of coming out of nowhere because, yeah, last month he played the free challengers, I think, and it wasn't there. Like, of course, Fonseca was playing pretty well from time to time, but he had some absolutely atrocious showings too, especially the one against Lavagno, the one against Popko when he just gets kind of blown out. Someone who sets up a wall behind the baseline, and like that's basically the whole Dimitri Popko game, was able to just throw him off so easily. And then he shows up in Rio here and is so far just basically like, regardless of the situation, the match, regardless of the opponent, he's dictating, he's dominating, and he's been very efficient so far. Misses the drop shot here for a 15 love lead to Navone. But again, I mean, there's just too much power on this forehand here. This is reminiscent of what he did to Fields in the first set, honestly. Because like one more break for Navone for him here, sorry, on the Navone serve, and becomes a real possibility to see another bagel. But yeah, this forehand is just insane. And yeah, I mean, obviously last year when he was reaching all these Grand Slam quarterfinals at the junior on the juniors tour, he made the quarterfinals in all 4 majors. Eventually, won the U.S. Open. Like that sort of hitting was there. It was just mixed up with a billion unforced errors as well, which kind of you just come from this style, right? Whereas so far we're not seeing any of that really this week. Okay, this time Navone finally manages to absorb the pace from the Fonseca forehand a little bit better. He redirects down the line, and Joao tries to go for his backhand line as well, missing it, netting it. So 30 all, but Still, this has been an electric start for sure by the teenager. I think that return would be in. Yeah, Navone just cleans up the mark. So it is Fonseca with another breakpoint, very deep backhand return right at Navone's feet. He's not giving Navone any time to think, any time to start maybe unleashing that expertise that he has in clay rallies and the smart game that he has, just because he's getting blown off the court so far. Another very good return, and Fonseca should like this ball. And what an angle on the forehand! Navone is still defending well, but he whips it past him. I mean, what the hell is that? This even? The post Big Free juniors have a blueprint to follow in terms of playstyle and fitness. Fonseca looks to have a lot of tools. I mean, playstyle, most of the time we don't really see players like this at the, let's say, winning slams, right? Like the blueprint generally for the most successful tennis players has been a little less aggressive, maybe. Even Sinner, what he's doing right now, it's because of adding more margin to his game as well. But of course, there's lots of time for it. Like I think with talents like this, like generally you're gonna be admiring the ball striking at the junior level. They're gonna be missing a ton of shots. They're gonna lose to some random juniors who don't have the same potential but can keep the ball in play. But eventually they will have a lot of time to develop anything else really. So it's really just all about that foundation. And if that foundation is being such a ball striking talent, if you're led right, if your progress goes okay, you should get somewhere. And in Fonseca's case, I would expect him to get very far. I think once, what was it, like a month or two ago, someone in the chat here asked about the potential, like who's gonna be the next South American Grand Slam winner. And even then, we said Fonseca, because for Haddad Maya, for Serundolo, the stars would have to align a little bit. No one else really on the tour currently who is in that sort of range, which of course doesn't have to happen for Fonseca, but the potential is there. Double break up. I think Navone just misses that return 30 love. He's definitely not been like allowed to even get into this match, to calm himself, to find his footing, because he's just getting blown off the court so far. Hasn't been allowed to develop that natural rhythm, which is somewhat important in his game for sure. Of course, a very natural comparison that comes to mind is when Alcaraz played Rio in 2020. He beat Ramos Vignolas. He lost to Coria in a great match. He was 16, so he was 1 year old, 1 year younger than Fonseca. He was, however, soon to be, I think, 17, right? He was like 3 months away from 17, so they weren't that far removed from each other in terms of the age at the time. However, I do think that even then you kind of saw a lot of differences in terms of the playstyle. Like Alcaraz was definitely a very free attacker. I still think he had more regulation in his game than Fonseca has right now, but at the same time, probably was not. Yeah, I mean, his timing wasn't this elite. Um, yeah, he just couldn't blast the ball like this. I mean, what can you say? I mean, he couldn't strike the ball like Fonseca does. Then again, of course, he had a lot of other sort of maybe movement wise and especially margin on the aggressive forehands, the spin on the aggressive forehands. I think he had his advantages over Fonseca. It's not comparable, obviously, but it's very hard to compare that. But it's very natural to be thinking about that Alcaraz 2020 run watching this. That's another insane point. I mean, this has been a murder so far. 15 minutes for love, nothing that Fonseca can do, and sorry, that Navone can do when Fonseca is hitting like this. Like, I mean, this is like winner after winner after one huge shot, and all of them are played, seemingly sort of risk heavy, seemingly low margin, but he's just getting all of that in. What a return here as well. I don't know if he's going to win the point. He's actually not going to, but that's the way he stepped into it, sort of open stance on the forehand. That was pretty absurd as well. Of course, it's also a topic that Fonseca has committed to a college and was thinking of like a Diana Schneider type of path where he plays a semester in college, plays a year in college maybe, and then hits the pros. But obviously, if he is able to like speed up his progress even more, that will be questioned. That decision, that potential track of progress. Maybe Navone can get on the board here. 40 love. There was a forehand error from Fonseca. Now Navone finds the first strike. But it's still like, even though Navone is winning this game, it kind of feels like we're playing on Fonseca's rules. Not even because he was wrapping up the previous point, but like he lost the game, but he lost it expending absolutely like no energy. Absolutely zero effort in order to lose this game, which is just kind of good for him, in terms of going forwards in the match because he lost the game, but he didn't waste any time and effort, basically. Fonseca technique looks a bit more fluid than Alcaraz. Alcaraz has that crafty acceleration with shortish backswing. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely flatter. It's definitely more. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, just rapid and no margin, no regulation again. I know I've said that 10 times already, which at least in theory kind of suggests that he shouldn't be landing these shots at such a high accuracy, but at such high accuracy. But he is, and definitely, in the junior days, it was basically the same. He was just making 30, 40 more errors a match, and that's kind of how he played in January as well. So I'm not really sure what's happening to him in the Rio Open, but basically all of that youngster inconsistency has been eliminated from his game so far. And I think that clearly the home crowd plays a big factor. It plays a big sort of role here because it just allows you to like have a different sense of focus, right? Different sense of concentration in every single game. They just kind of guide you through. Whereas maybe when that wasn't a thing, he would sometimes, well, fall into these error streaks, fall into these weaker patches, but not in Rio so far. I mean, he defeated Arthur Fields at the loss of just 3 games, and he or 4 games. I can't remember what was the score in the second set after the bagel, maybe 6-4. And then, of course, 6-4, 6-4 against Christian Garin, which is actually a very impressive win because, yeah, you just kind of have to back up that Fields victory. Garin is someone who will make you play a ton of balls. So it's not easy whatsoever, but he manages to get through. And so far, he's also blasting through Mariano Navone. Starts the sixth game with a double fault, though. Now seems to have the point under control of his forehand. And that's actually a bit weaker from Navona. He should have had that. I guess he misjudged the ball, um, I don't know, by virtue of the bounce or whatever, but he didn't get a clean contact on that slice. 15 all. Fonseca gets the first serve in, trading backhands. And it's the Brazilian who misses first. There was definitely a bit of a, should I go down the line question there, and maybe that also led to him being the first player to crack there. Usually, like, a month ago, I would have told you every single backhand to backhand rally cross, Navone should be winning easily. He actually kind of even had more wrist acceleration, I think, on the backhand until recently, but what Fonseca has been playing from this wing here at this event has been insane. But now we are starting to see the cracks. We are starting to see some spotty errors, which of course come with the game, come with the playstyle. And he mishits this forehand inside in to give Navona the 2 breakpoints. Second serve on that as well. I'm not thinking that Navone will attack it, but should at least be in the point. And he is indeed, goes back and down the line. What a good shot from Navone here. The first forehand that Fonseca really hit with a bit of, let's say, a little tentatively. Like literally the first shot in the entire match that he doesn't go for. And Navone is there with the backhand line. Great shot. 4-2. And this is probably also the first point where like he really leaves his mark on the match as well, because even if he broke here, I don't know, with a double fault, let's say, and was 4-2 Fonseca as well, and Navone claiming the last 2 games, but it would still feel like a match where like he's been resorted to this, um, like the role of an extra basically, where he's just standing there and it's Fonseca creating everything and creating all play. However, he kind of leaves an impression here with that point, which is pretty important. I think, that sort of thing can definitely help him maybe get into Fonseca's mind a little bit, at least, try to make him feel that this is an important match. However, I feel like someone like Fonseca, compared to most of these players, like the stakes really aren't that high for him, because I know nothing to lose is a myth in general. Nothing to lose is certainly just a myth, because every time you have something to lose, like I don't know, when Jan-Lennard Struff plays the Madrid final against Carlos Alcaraz, it's not that Struff doesn't have anything to lose, definitely not. And I think Fonseca has a bit of an advantage over these players, though, because for someone like Navone, who's 22, I think about to turn 23, you kind of are thinking about this. I have to stabilize in the top 100. I have to get the points right. And by the way, this is obviously a huge matchup when it comes to points, because this is for 100 points essentially. So for winning a strong challenger, basically. And when it comes to the sort of mindset that I think someone like Navone has, like for him, these points are really important. But for Fonseca, when you started the year like 600 and you're basically, just at the very beginning of your career, I don't think you're really thinking in that category. Like, I don't think it matters if you get 200 or 100 points here, like to at least not to that extent, especially when it still wouldn't like allow you to break the top 100. Even a title here wouldn't. So I think the pressure, sort of, yeah, points wise, prize money, the opportunity that is ahead of him, that's not as important. I think if the nerves get to Fonseca, it's likely going to be at a big event at home, and more so the occasion in that regard. And I was talking all the way through this next game, which has Fonseca break again. Just as I was sort of saying that Navone left his mark on the match, Fonseca wins this 1 point with some great backhand acceleration cross again. But it's also a few spotty errors from Navone. So 5-2, and he will serve for the opening set, the 17-year-old Joao Fonseca. The tournament is turning into the Fonseca show. Wise choice to give him a wild card. I mean, it was not a choice. Let's be honest. Like, Fonseca from last year onwards was always gonna get the wild card every single year here. I can't really, say that it's a good choice because they don't have anyone else to give it to, really. I mean, you have the number one junior in the world. You're obviously gonna give the wild card in the only Brazilian ATP Tour event, right? Um, it's not that there are many other contenders. Even, I mean, Thiago Monteiro, of course, got one as the veteran and actually got into the quarterfinals, which is, I think, the third time he gets there in Rio. Probably his best chance ever as well at having a massive run here. But of course, in the end, he doesn't end up making it. And Gustavo Heidel was already pushing it. The third wildcard choice. I mean, he did not, especially of altitude. He does not look ATP Tour level so far. Meligeni Alves was in the quarters. I think Meligeni Alves instead of Heide probably in the quarters, in the qualifiers. I think Meligeni Alves instead of Heide probably would have been a good choice, but of course Heide is younger. But yeah, like they didn't really have any other choice than to give it to Fonseca. Like, that's basically your stock. Like, you have to be putting a lot of stock into that talent that you have, and into someone who is considered, an absolutely ridiculous player already at the age of 17, and who was year and number one in the juniors, who won the US Open. Must be annoying losing to a teenager, even if they are amazing. Absolutely. What was the match that I was doing the commentary on recently? I can't remember, but I think maybe it was Botic against Sinner or something like that. Maybe I wasn't doing commentary on it, but maybe I was just like, oh no, it was actually, I wasn't doing commentary on it, but I think it was maybe Jesper de Jong against Sinner, something like that. Anyway, when basically, I know Sinner is not a teenager anymore, but I was basically thinking of that scenario when you like get to a match against a high quality young player, and you're like, okay, I'm never gonna be as good as him. Like, literally never gonna be, because it's impossible. Like, definitely there are players who are going to get off the court playing against Joao Fonseca, and they're gonna be thinking that. And it can kind of shatter your confidence, honestly. I mean, I don't think Mariano Navone is necessarily expecting to get to word number one. The sad truth is not everyone can do it. But yeah, just to sort of run into someone like this, I don't know. Maybe as a player like Navone, maybe you're gonna be fine with this, because again, your ambitions probably for now are like stabilize in the top 100 and then see how far I can take it. But I think especially if you're like a seasoned pro who's I don't know, top 20, top 30 in the world, you run into someone like, and you're kind of like hoping to contend for big titles soon, and then you run into someone like this, and yeah, I think it can kind of destroy you. Anyway, that's 6-2 Joao Fonseca now, and he clinches the set with the forehand winner. um, I still don't think that Navona is playing too well, honestly. But at the same time, he has been resorted. Yeah, he's just been, a non-factor in this match. Other than that 1 point, he's just standing there and receiving whatever is coming at him. And the fact that what's coming at him is such massive pace on every single bloody shot, I mean, that's probably also contributing to him like not being able to even get a foothold in this match. So 6-2 Fonseca, and this has been quite a performance again. Stats wise, 6 winners, 8 unforced errors. Navone at 1-9. I think these unforced errors for Navone are probably a little, I would say, well, trigger happy in terms of the stats guys, because like how would he even get a chance for 9 unforced errors against Fonseca, honestly, with the way that Joao has been dominating most points, but oh, maybe not. 4 unreturned serves from Fonseca, just 1 from Navone, so no free points either. And that's actually quite an impressive number as well for Fonseca, that he's only missed 1 return so far. And I'm not saying Navone is a great server, but still, only about 40% of his points won on serve in general. Navone getting broken 3 times. He obviously broke Fonseca once, but that was not enough. Both players 100% on breakpoint conversion, capitalizing on every opportunity so far. Thank you to whoever subscribed, 30 until 6K. I think what John said on the previous watch along, that's probably optimistic to get it before the end of this one, especially if Fonseca just cleans it up in an hour, then we're not going to have time. But until the end of Rio Open, until the end of February, that would be cool. So if anyone watching is still unsubscribed, you know what to do. Do it for Joao Fonseca. I mean, Joao Fonseca will be perfectly fine without any of our praise, subscription, and everything, because, well, he is 17. He has so many opportunities, offers, sponsorships already. Obviously, the one that we very clearly can see is the on running, and how he, besides Ben Shelton and Iga Świątek, is their only player, which I have to say that it's a very nice group that they've built up for definitely. Shelton, sort of regardless of whether he progresses from that top 15-ish level that he is on right now, regardless of if he progresses from that point onward, from that moment, from that spot, he's definitely going to continue to be like a player who raises a lot of debate and I don't know if controversy sometimes as well, but definitely will be just a memorable part of the circuit. And Fonseca is someone who they probably got at early stage of his career, probably not for as much money as he was worth it, I would assume. And it obviously helps and sort of just adds your confidence to in regards to Fonseca here, that basically he is also a very mature teenager from what we've seen so far, and from his quotes from his interviews, and just kind of isn't afraid to take it slow here. And even that's the fact that he was willing to go to college, for example, despite having such a massive junior career, right? We'll see if he actually ends up going there, but just yeah, he's definitely not speed running into these events and just trying hardcore to be on the tour right away. He's definitely okay with the more natural flow of his career, and that's great. But if there's nothing natural about what he's doing this week, obviously it feels likely that his career is going to speed up. Anyway, Navone committed an unforced error on the forehand, the first point of the second set. This is actually very similar to a shot he missed a couple of games ago as well. This sharper angle that he's trying to go for, I mean, it's also just a sign of how he's been overwhelmed so far. And even when he gets an opportunity to do something, it's not coming easy for him. But now we have a couple of errors from Fonseca, who's lobbing Navone in on the next point, and he actually won't get to that backhand overhead from Mariano. I mean, he will get there, but he won't get there in time to come up with a good response. So at least Navone will have a shot to start the second set with a hold, and after that, who knows? Maybe if Fonseca isn't 4-love up in a set, maybe if he doesn't run away with it in the first 10-15 minutes, maybe there will be some doubt. Maybe there will be some confusion. We'll see. Can Navone clinch it? Tries to go serve for the serve down the tee. I think he's really missed a lot of these already. Just trying to find the ace or the point-winning serve, but can't quite land it. And again, Fonseca is there with the backhand return right away. He won't, says Ghosty, but what was that about? I don't even remember. Oh, yeah, and another error from Navone, partially caused by how quick Fonseca was again with the backhand return. Navone trying to run around, Navone trying to be aggressive, trying to be the first to strike, but just can't do it when that sort of pace is coming at him. This looks a little more sort of up Navone's alley, as he's kind of trying to outmaneuver Fonseca here. And the Brazilian teenager tries to go for a drop shot, which he just misses. But yeah, you could see that this is the sort of pace of play that Navone enjoys. He was much more. Well, he was still pushed by Fonseca a few times, especially this last shot with the backhand slide. But generally, he was just in a lot more comfortable, like strike zone all the time. He had a lot more time on the ball. He was able to spread it. He was able to outmaneuver. Well, no, maybe not outmaneuver, but like just sort of try to um, provide, the main assets of his game, which is, the angles, the expertise and all the clay court rallies and how he builds up points, which he hasn't been able to show this much so far. One more game point for him anyway. But again, it's the backhand return from Seibovild, yeah, Fonseca. Seibovild obviously already out of the event. So is Thiago Monteiro. So Joao Fonseca is the only Brazilian player remaining, and it would be quite a story and quite a thing for the event as well, right? If Fonseca stayed in it, preferably until the end, he would play Cam Nori tomorrow if he beats Navone. He won't go to college. Yeah, possibly. I mean, Diana Schneider wasn't supposed to do it either, right? But she did eventually. Well, wasn't supposed to. I mean, everyone was saying that she doesn't really like have. There's no point. But she ended up playing half a year. I don't know. Fonseca seems wild enough to do it, but honestly, if he wins this match, like with every single win, especially in this event, it becomes a lot less possible, a lot less probable. Can Navone finally escape and get that hold? This time he survives some of the early offense from Fonseca, and Joao tries to go for the big forehand counter, which I think he just landed on the line as well. He's refusing to give this game to Navone. With how well he plays on the run, on the stretch, sometimes Navone opening up these angles can even backfire at him. And I guess so it could for Nori tomorrow, if that much will indeed be happening. Another second serve for Navone, and he will be wary of the Fonseca backhand return now. I don't know if he's gonna go at it. No, but the forehand return is just as good. I mean, Fonseca standing on the baseline just rips it right away, and he's gonna get a break point. The opening set, of course, started with a break. In fact, the opening set started with a 4-love lead. We still have had such a bit of a streaky path in this match and how it's progressing. 4 games for Fonseca, 2 games for Navone, now 2 games for Fonseca, and there might be a third game coming for Fonseca, but we'll see. This time Navone has once again a bit of a clearer idea of how he can play this point out, and he manages to get it done as well. I don't think this was necessarily a choice. I think he was kind of forced into it. with the way that the rally started out after the serve and return, but certainly these few points when Fonseca is just not attacking as wildly, as violently, they usually don't end well for him. Double fault. But, sorry, double fault. Second serve for Navone. I was just thinking about the big return that was surely coming from Fonseca's racket and thinking of a potential double fault. But no, I mean, what's coming from Fonseca's racket is first a huge backhand return down the middle again, and then a sensational backhand drop shot. I mean, usually you see him going for the forehand one. This time he unloads the backhand, and clearly it is surprising for Navone. I mean, honestly, I would never guess in this position that Fonseca, also falling backwards a little bit, like with his body weight towards the back, that he was going to play the dropper here. So it's no wonder that was effective too. So one more breakpoint for the Brazilian sensation. Again, the rally goes like more neutral on the breakpoint. Navone with a lot of spin on that forehand, but Fonseca so far surviving it. He slices the ball. Again, Navone back. Wow. I mean, yeah. Navone played that shot again. I mean, one of his favorites, the loopier, heavier forehand down the line. And Fonseca just steps into it, rips it cross court with the backhand, and it's 6-2, 1-love, break up. Set and a break up, Joao Fonseca. Poof. I must be tired because I don't even remember. Oh, Schneider is a woman, not the same. I don't really know in this particular case what the change would be. Like, what the difference would be between going to college for a semester as a woman or as a male. Probably the bigger difference is that number one ranking for Fonseca and the general outlook on his talent, and probably what he has to be sort of expecting of himself as well. Whereas Schneider is like more, run of the mill, if you may. I mean, of course, he's not run of the mill compared to most tennis players in the world, but you know, there's a fair few other young prospects around her. Whereas Fonseca kind of stands alone so far in his age group. And I mean, what an insane point here again. Just keeps targeting that same corner, two backhands, and then two forehands, and then the backhand inside out finish. I mean, it's both actually like really controlled and super aggressive. And this is a major change in his game this week. See how it continues, sort of, if he plays a challenger next or something. But it's absolutely incredible. Of course, last year, Joao Fonseca, even though he couldn't get like maybe a very deep challenger run, I think on the ITF Tour he made the semifinal, made one semifinal. That was, I think, his best result. But in challengers, he managed to score two very impressive wins against Alexander Kovacevic in Temuco and also against Thiago Seyboth-Wild in Florianopolis. The one against Kovacevic was a little maybe less impressive because it was like high altitude, hard courts, and basically he was targeting the Kovacevic backhand, which on the day was not holding up. But still, like even despite the wind and the altitude, like the most, let's say, dangerous shot for sure, but also the most controlled shot on court was actually the Fonseca forehand. Wow, I mean, okay. That point was almost Fonseca's best of the week, but eventually it might be Navone's best of the week, as the two guys were like trading volleys next to the net. Fonseca should have done more maybe on this first overhead. Navone gets to it, then they're trading these volleys. A great exchange here. Fonseca plays a tweener, and Navone finishes off the point with a soft forehand drop volley. Tries to get some sort of a reaction from the crowd, but well, we'll see how much they give him. Given that, of course, Fonseca is kind of their, peril that they probably already were familiar with for the most part and just discovered this week how rare that peril is. And the other win that I was talking about, of course, the Thiago Sejbovit in one in Florianopolis was just absolutely insane as well. The way he lost the opening set and then just sort of started out hitting Thiago Sejbovit, out forehanded the guy with the big forehand. And Thiago around that time was like on a crazy run, winning like maybe 8 of his matches prior to this match and 12 after, or like the other way around. So it's not like he was sort of asleep in the pros last year while still getting all the quarterfinals in the Grand Slam stages, eventually also getting the job done at the US Open over Lernertin. And that's the break for Navone, as that great point really allowed him to find himself a little bit more comfortable in the Fonseca game. A couple of errors from the young Brazilian now, and we are still going. Yeah, the do's, the don'ts, the cans, the cans and cans, right? Uh, anyway, this is of course the first sort of opportunity for Navona to really hit back, to find that hold again, to get some big momentum coming his way, because the last time he won 2 games in a row, and the only time, of course, he's won 2 games in a row, he was already love for down and then 2 for down after these 2 games. So it was a very different scenario. And as we said, this match has been a little streaky for sure. But maybe Fonseca will not allow him, as he fires this great forehand drop shot here. Wonderful disguise. This is the more usual dropper for him. As I said, that backhand one earlier was certainly a bit of a surprise. This one is kind of the regular stuff that you're gonna see from him. But also with this, you could see that Mariano was on the back foot, way behind the baseline, so not much of an opportunity to get there, even with his speed, because the speed on the defense, on the passes from Navona, it can be quite incredible as well, but not this time. Again, Navona lifting the ball, but the problem for him seems that Fonseca is pretty comfortable with that trajectory. However, he approaches the net here and misses the volley that Navone makes him hit. A pretty tough one, admittedly. A really good sort of shrinking the court as well from Navone, because it didn't feel like the approach shot was even that bad from Fonseca. But again, the Argentinian just anticipates well, slides into it, and makes his opponent hit a pretty tough first volley. Great point for Navone to really like try to establish himself in the match. Another time he finds a backhand down the line, and the stretching to the forehand corner from Fonseca is maybe a little, let's say, nothing crazy, nothing spectacular compared to some other aspects of his game. 40-15 Navone. He actually had the similar, the same score line in the first game of the second set. He lost that game, obviously. But now he can get a lead for the first time in the match, for the first time in a set. However, again, we have a return winner from Joao Fonseca. The second serve of Navone has been brutalized quite a lot of times already in this match. Probably this forehand winner down the line was faster than the serve, I would expect. Although it also clipped the net. I don't think it mattered though, like whether it clips or not. Nothing that Navone could do. Let's see if he can clinch the game here, though, as he's in the rally after the first serve. Fonseca with a pretty deep ball, and he goes for the backhand inside out again, and it's insane. I mean, he's not willing to miss on these opportunities for Navone, and that's been very hard for Mariano to handle when he's just consistently so far behind the baseline, so far behind in the rallies. Can't really force out errors. He's really just forced to rely on Fonseca potentially missing, and the net positive of, let's say, not winners to unforced errors, but definitely the point ending shots, the forcing shots from Fonseca to unforced errors definitely has been massively positive. And what a forehand return again. Can he actually clinch the point? Okay, I mean, Navone back in it, and that's a nice rally for him. Handled that first massive forehand return from Fonseca just by barely getting to it, scrambling to it and hitting that moonball. And eventually, he also finds a great counter on the next shot. I mean, you can definitely something we can definitely appreciate about Navone here is how well he's anticipating. It's very hard to hit an actual winner, and even when Fonseca is in the middle of the court, more or less of the return, yes, but off the ground, it really requires a special Fonseca strike to eventually find it, but still can't quite get that second game. Navone. This time it's him committing an unforced error, and we are at deuce again. What? Really? 39 votes and all for Fonseca? Will Fonseca be in many main draw tournaments this year? On the main tour, I mean, really depends on the points and on the wildcards. I mean, so far we can't really say that. Um, I mean, other than Rio, he didn't get any ATP Tour wildcards last year, which was kind of understandable. But let's say he wins Rio and he's both like 60 points away from the top 100, but also should get a wildcard for at least something pretty soon. In the past, it's been like pretty common for someone like, let's say, Alcaraz or Rune early on to get wildcards, even not at their events, even not at events played in their countries. So I think it is possible. Probably requires a bigger one. However, he's also been using the challenger opportunities. He's been because of that junior ranking, because of that junior slam title, he still has 5 challenger opportunities left that he can use. Actually, maybe even 6, because maybe to Buenos Aires or to Punta del Este, maybe he got on his own ranking. Although I don't remember now, but anyway, he still has the challenger opportunities. It's hard to say, I mean, what he will actually play, right? But a lot of that depends on the Rio run too, because 500 points or 200 points in his case, it does make a big deal of difference. In the week of March the 4th, which is actually Indian Wells, Fonseca is signed up for Santa Cruz, which is a challenger in Bolivia, and he is signed up for it on his own ranking, which is currently he is the 12th alternate for the qualifying. I know that sounds like much, but I would say usually he might actually make it after all the withdrawals. But we'll see. Of course, he's not guaranteed to, but it is possible. Shevchenko and Medjedovic being in this conversation, well, Shevchenko especially being in this conversation, Ghosty, is definitely out of place. Medjedovic is maybe a little out of place. However, I still feel like if Hamad was actually playing this year and still injured, he would be kind of a top 50 player in pretty soon. Now I don't know if it's going to happen because he's not going to be on the courts for um, a couple of months at least. I mean, we still don't have any idea how long it will take. So maybe it's actually going to last even longer. So who knows? Maybe Hamad doesn't even break the top 100 this year eventually. But I think he's still a little out of place in this conversation. I think Prismic is too. I've been sort of, I don't want to say laughing, but I've been definitely a little surprised by how people are putting Fonseca, Prismic, and Menchik in the same group. But I would say if you want to compare anyone to Fonseca, it has to be Menchik out of the current juniors that we have. Juniors. I mean, Menchik is not a junior anymore, but you know what I mean. I mean, if we can compare anyone to Fonseca, I believe it is Menchik. Prismic so far still needs a ton of development to, I think, sort of get over that, let's say, Borna Choric-ish ceiling. He definitely plays like Borna Choric to a large extent. And he maybe showed already that he can be a bit of an improved version of Borna Choric in a way as well. Maybe not the post-injury Borna Choric wins Cincinnati, but like there's still a lot of progress to be done for Prismic. There's still a lot of development in terms of just winning points a bit more easily. I'm not saying he's going to be Joao Fonseca or he's going to be a very aggressive player. Not everyone is a very aggressive player, obviously, but it's just such a grind for him in a lot of these matches, and I think even climbing the rankings right now isn't going to be as easy for him as it could be for Menchik, for example, right? Who can just go huge like that at one ATP Tour event and basically break all the milestones possible in 1 week. Now we are seeing an interesting development. A couple of rallies which Navone survives. He's finally like really playing like Navone, adding a lot more spin to his shots and just sort of out rallying, outdoing Fonseca in terms of point construction. And this time the Brazilian goes to the net, and Navone is there with a fantastic forehand pass. I love this for Navone that he's at least showing, his appeal on the big stage right now. We'll see how long this lasts, and we'll see how whether he can actually break here. But if he can put himself in that 3-1 position, we definitely might still have a match out of this. Fonseca forehand drop shot. This time Navone will get to it. Fonseca should have definitely done more on the lob. Navone kind of had a shot. He jumped to the smash or the overhead, whatever, and he can't quite tap it into the court. I don't know if to call it his mistake or not. I mean, probably not. I mean, he was just reacting really, but you might call it a bit of a missed opportunity. Third breakpoint, and again, it's a great serve from Fonseca. Navone guessed right though. Again, I mean, his anticipation is really good, but he can't put the forehand counter into the court, and the court was basically open as well because Fonseca just hit that amazing out wide serve, went for the inside in, and didn't even attempt to get back to the middle or something. So this was really all about whether Navone can find the counter. Obviously, not that easy with the pace coming from Fonseca, but this point was really all about that, whether he can find that counter cross court, and he didn't. So 3 breakpoints saved by the Brazilian right now, and he's gonna have a game point to get to 2-all as well. But I think the only player you can seriously compare to Fonseca right now from the juniors, from the youngsters, is Jakub Menchik. And for the record, I'm not including Alcaraz, Sinner, and Ruda in these youngsters. I'm considering them, higher level already. I wish that Artur Fils was in this conversation. I wish that Medjedovic was in this conversation, sure. But I don't think they quite are right now. What a point from Fonseca again. I mean, both the footwork from Navone here to get back to the forehand corner and also blast this big counter. But how does Fonseca even play a drop shot out of this? I don't really understand because the ball was coming at him at such high velocity again, and especially on the backhand. This is pretty similar to the other backhand drop shot, which really surprised Navone. That one, well, the previous one was down the line, though. This one is cross, and yeah, just not a ball from which you should be getting a lot of control on your drop shot, but Fonseca is able to do that. So after three consecutive breakpoints for Navone, we are back at 2-all anyway. So this is a big hit to Mariano's chances for sure. As yeah, 3-1 up in the set, maybe just casting a little doubt in Fonseca's mind. Things could have been looking much more pleasant for him at the moment. But instead, he just gets another massive return from Fonseca coming at him. This time, though, he picks it up, and the Brazilian makes an error on the next ball. This was literally making him hit one more shot, and not even, one more, one more, one more. It was just one more shot, and sometimes it's enough. As of course, Fonseca still has issues controlling his game and issues that are basically synonymous with being 17, with being scarily talented, but still a youngster. Navone forcing Fonseca to slice, trying to trade backhands with him, but it's impossible. I mean, Fonseca just completely takes over. He's not gonna just go at you with that, let's say, get into that backhand cross-court exchange. He just goes down the line despite being a bit out of position, and he literally goes down the line and finds the line with it. So 15-30 again, just pushing Navone and trying to get back into the lead. Which again, if he loses the set here, Navone, let's say 3-6, we're definitely gonna be looking at that 2-1 game and how he couldn't convert any of the free break points. This could be a fantastic Navone point though if he wins it. But he doesn't. Fonseca to his box, he points to his head, and indeed, I mean, this was a very smart point from him as well. The what was it? The forehand here? No, the forehand squash shot that he defends with. Navone can't quite capitalize on the position, but then the loopier backhand that he used, and it completely throws Navone off. This is more from Navone's playbook, in fact. 15-40, 2 breakpoints for Fonseca to get back into that set and a break lead. Returning has been very good so far, really not missing too many of them, but he can't win the point. 30-40. Great backhand down the line from Navone. Fonseca almost making it, but no. I think we are seeing a bit of a trend, though. I earlier said that it maybe isn't it, but I think we are seeing a bit of a trend with Fonseca playing just a bit more passively on the breakpoints. Even 2 points ago, right? I mean, Navone tries to get him into a backhand cross trade, and Fonseca just says no right away, and this time he's actually content to do it. And it's Navone creating plays, and that's been the case for a lot of breakpoints so far. On the Navone serve, I mean, not on the Fonseca serve. On the Fonseca serve, he was definitely in control and mostly just serving extremely well from love 40. Another just rapid return. He's not playing like he's also very smart about this returning because he's not going for the lines. He's mostly just playing down the middle and fast enough in order for Navone to have issues absorbing that. So one more breakpoint for the 17-year-old. Gonna be a lob from Fonseca, and he recovers the point with it, and he eventually wins it. Again, some pretty smart defense too. I mean, the way he got that literally like very close to the baseline and never allowed Navone any chance to maintain the aggression in the point because yeah, he was never gonna like try to smash it off the ground. That's a little tough for a player like him. So basically, he got the point back to neutral and 6-2, 3-2. And yeah, even if we've had some minor streaks of errors, I mean, this has still been an insane performance from the Brazilian teenager. Talking tennis community putting the hell Nav in Navone. Do you know Hazem Nav, the Syrian who recently became the first Syrian to win a challenger match? Sort of sounds like him. And when I initially read Hell Nav, I was thinking of Hazem Nav. 49-0, yeah. Almost Dariusz Michalczewski as well. He was 48 0. But yeah, Rocky Marciano, Floyd Mayweather. Mayweather is the most boring boxer ever. Oh yeah, and I see Ghosty's comment about that. Floyd Mayweather was the pusher of professional boxing. I absolutely agree with that. Yes, Slim Pasty, we can't show the game. I mean, literally, we will be taken down in minutes. Am I old enough to have seen Iron Mike? Well, not live. Actually, no. Sorry, I watched one of his last fights live. I think was it Danny McBride maybe in 2005, the one that he lost. But yeah, I've seen quite a few Mike Tyson bouts. I used to be a bit of a boxing fan as a kid, and I did wake up for, of course, Pacquiao Mayweather at night, and that sort of stuff. And Andre Goota fighting against Lennox Lewis. But basically, that ended for me like 2008 or 9. But I was always invested in the classics, so I've actually watched a ton of classics. So definitely, Mike Tyson was involved. Either the Holyfield, ear bite, or the loss to James Buster Douglas, which was such a big one, but also a few knockouts, obviously, because I just mentioned two fights that he lost in sort of very well, one in very controversial fashion, one simply being a huge upset, but also definitely quite a few of the sort of firepower examples. But yeah, Floyd Mayweather definitely not my favorite. Canelo Alvarez I've never seen. He kind of came after my time, and I've actually never watched him. Yeah. Loved a lot of boxing from the 20s, the 1910s. I don't know. I guess I'm just a bit crazy like that, but I had this great biography of Jack Dempsey, and maybe that's why. But definitely watched a lot of Jack Johnson or Stanley Ketchel, Billy Papke. But anyway, it's not a boxing watch along. I mean, it's only sports that I've been, interested in. It's definitely not every sport, Ghosty. I can't talk to you about baseball or American football, for example. Basically, whatever you Yanks are interested in, I'm not. So, anyway, 1530, Fonseca, 6232. And he misses that forehand down the line. So, it's getting definitely a lot more, muddy, a lot more gritty this set. It's not gonna come as easy to him as the opener. Every single game right now is sort of up and down. There's a lot of twists. The servers don't necessarily win. The servers don't necessarily have the easiest time. It's a lot more of a like back to normal set. Probably I would say the second set is more or less what we expected from this match, right? With like Navone having his chances to from time to time dictate as well, and also yeah, just to use that amazing sort of angle variety in his baseline hitting, and the angles sort of variety in his baseline hitting that he can unleash in on clay and carefully construct points. Also, of course, the footwork on the defense, the passes, and so far this match is definitely this second set is definitely more about that and him trying to hold off Fonseca and finally having a shot at doing that. And this is a great point as well. Fonseca going for that backhand drop shot again, which I can't really say this has gotten predictable. It's definitely, he's used it a few times. I don't think this was the reason why he lost the point. It was more so just how quick Navone was to it, and also the shot that he actually found, the response down the line with the forehand was also quite good. Like the to get it so much control on it while running towards the net, definitely an impressive feat. And that's another really nice point from for Navone, really showing the angles that he can produce on the forehand and outplaying Fonseca in this forehand rally where he was just really keeping the ball away from Fonseca's strike zone. You can see on the replay here how Joao has to slide to that forehand. He can't, just blast it down the line. He can't blast it cross court right at Navone. And eventually, the next shot in that same direction, just with an even more wicked angle, is enough. So even if Navone loses in straights here, we'll see. But if he does, we definitely won't be able to say anymore that he didn't get into this match. He has found his footing. He's in it. But we'll see if Fonseca can apply the needed pressure to clinch that one. I haven't watched it, Ghosty, but yeah, I mean, I know what it is about, and I've watched the fight a few times for sure. The legendary 7 rounds of like avoiding the fight from Ali, and then one combination essentially to defeat Foreman. But no, I haven't. I haven't watched the documentary. Again, Navone with such a good angle on the forehand, and I like that he's getting these moments. That he after the first set when he was just blown off the court, he will at least have some positives to think about after this match, even if he goes down. But for now, of course, he does not have to go down at all. I mean, he is absolutely in it. He's absolutely fighting to claim that second set. And a missed return from Fonseca this time, a rarity in this match, especially after such a, I would say, I don't know, definitely a slow serve from Navone. But 4-3 up now for the Argentinian, and this is the moment when he can actually start thinking about winning the set for sure. Just one more sloppy game from Fonseca, and we are so close to the third set. Maybe Sean, it's with the Rumble in the Jungle. Maybe this is sort of like what you mentioned earlier, that it must be sort of disheartening when you're playing a youngster, even a youngster as good as that, and you lose. I mean, Ali was not a youngster, obviously, when they fought in Kinshasa, but he was definitely like, it could have been quite disheartening for Foreman, right, to lose to him, especially in the manner that he did. For a guy of this size to be just basically knocked out by one combination. And that's indeed when he turned to religion and didn't return to the top of the sport for a while, until the 90s essentially. Let's see. I mean, this is getting really competitive now. This is getting really tricky for Fonseca as well. More and more rallies are sort of more in Navone's comfort zone, and he's actually he started using the angle work, the geometry of the court, to start spreading it, to dictate in his own manner, which of course is not as explosive, not as flashy as Fonseca, but can be quite as effective as well. And the first point also goes to Navona in the eighth game, as Fonseca double faults. Perhaps we're seeing some nerves too, and we might definitely, if this gets to, let's say love 30, love 40, 15-40, and a moment when it will really feel like Fonseca is close to losing a set. Yeah, I just wanted to say that that's some pretty good defense from Navona again, but just as I was about to, Fonseca just absolutely unleashes on this forehand down the line. Another high octane, 200 kilometers an hour strike. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not 200 kilometers an hour, but 160 or whatever. Anyway, hella fast. Let's just stop it hella fast. I think this backhand return was on the line probably from Navona, yeah, 15-30. The intensity of Fonseca seems to have gone down as well. I wouldn't expect him to be tired. I mean, it's only his third match, right? He won the previous two in straight sets, but he's definitely not as energetic as at the beginning of the match right now. Just not taking over the points as easily anymore, which is a big deal in this matchup for sure. He goes for the serve and volley here. Pretty ballsy, but again, the angle that he found on the serve out wide, that was really good. I think part of why Fonseca will actually be at his best on clay for now is the serve. However, with time, he definitely has the has the potential to also develop maybe a more hardcourt oriented delivery too, and just go flatter, go with more pace when needed. But right now he just does so much work with these serves out wide. And this point, similarly, I mean, that he just throws out Navone out of the court completely, and then has the amazing opportunity to pull off the forehand dropper again, and he wins the point after that. The angles that he's able to produce on serve are definitely a huge part of this match, and how, despite the resistance from Navone, we are still basically on level terms in the second set, although now we are deuce at 3-4. Navone got his chance and eventually just clinched it with the forehand down the line. The opportunity, I don't think I've talked about it during this match, but like the opportunities here in Rio are insane for all the players left, really. Other than Nori, of course, who's like not that much harm would happen to him if he lost tomorrow, for example. But for players, other than him, like the amount of points in Rio, especially considering that the Buenos Aires draw was literally the same, definitely presents a wonderful opportunity for all of these guys. Even the quarterfinals already is 100 points. And it's going to be a breakpoint for Navone, as this time he tracks down the Fonseca drop shot. Fonseca serves and volleys again, and Navone will not make it to that ball. I mean, he almost got it, but it was a double bounce before he managed to. Again, the serve and volley from Fonseca on a key point on serve. I think he is feeling the effects of, well, I don't know if the previous matches or maybe this one, but he definitely has physically cooled off a little bit. And the plays like this, the serve and volleying here, it does kind of show that he's trying to keep the point short. This time he manages to do it. I mean, the volley was a little clumsy, but effective. Again, serve and volleying Fonseca. This time Navone can't put the return in play, though, so we didn't actually see him volleying. However, the intent was clear. And there's a game point for the Brazilian, who saved a couple of breakpoints here that easily could have steered the second set in Navone's favor. But if we get to 4-all, things are suddenly very open once again. We still aren't there, though, as Fonseca misses this forehand. Again, not as easy for him to start to be controlling points again. Navone is like pretty hardcore grinding him down right now, and we'll see if Fonseca can manage to survive it, because the match has clearly been quite tough on him, especially in the last 5-10 minutes. I wonder if that drop off is also taking a bit away from his serve, but I would have to look at some serve speed stats for that, and that I don't think we can really get at an ATP 250. But what we can definitely see just with our very eyes is that he's not as dominant in the rallies anymore. And now Navone is having a bit of a field day, just doing what he likes best, playing the sort of rallies that he was hoping to get in this match, and not just getting blown off the court by these insane returns down the middle, by these insane forehand accelerations from Fonseca, by how strong his backhand has been this week. And another breakpoint for the Argentinian. That's a short return, but Fonseca still throws out the forehand. This was just feeding the ball to Fonseca. This was just sitting there for Joao to take it, but he misses it. 5-3, and I mean Navone, of course, might not serve it out. He still has that to do, and obviously this isn't his best asset. This isn't something he does the best in the whole world. However, it does feel like Fonseca kind of needs a break at the moment. So let's see how smoothly this one goes. And it's new balls as well. I don't know if that actually helps Navone. Like, if your serve is this average, then maybe it actually helps your opponent, to get some bigger strikes in. And we'll see if Fonseca can take it. Not so far, as he misses this backhand return down the middle. I do kind of have this suspicion that in this game, Fonseca will just be crushing the ball without any sense of, um, you know, precision and without any sense of accuracy, but it's just going to be going for it. And eventually he'll lose it, and then he goes to a toilet break or whatever. But I guess I wasn't right, because he's actually trying to rally on the next point, and he gets the reward in the shape of a Navone and forehand unforced error. Another missed return though, and this time he wasn't going after it. This time he was just trying to put it back into play. 30-15. I mean, for now, Navone looks really well on the way to outlasting Fonseca. I think a lot of this match is going to sort of depend how he, well, if we get the third set, but like how Fonseca recovers and how much he can actually restore during a potential break. But first, let's see if Navone can take it. Ooh, if that got over the net, I think Navone would have had that point and two set points. But Fonseca is fighting back. I mean, especially when he has that sort of waist high ball at from the forehand down the line that he can always unleash on it, like regardless of how tired he is, it seems. But the other shots have not been penetrating the court too much. The other shots have not been doing as much damage the last 10 minutes or so. But Navone can't be helping him, and he almost did with this very deep backhand, but it's Fonseca missing the slice. And it's going to be set point Navone, who really has to be feeling good about himself and his chances right now, given how Fonseca is just looking slightly more fatigued. But one set point, and we'll see if he can take it. As obviously for him, it's not that easy when the serve does not give you an apparent advantage. He barely gets that one over the net, but it's in. They're slicing the ball, and Fonseca tries to go for a massive forehand inside out. He just misses it. So one set all, and well, right now, Navone definitely looks like the favorite if Fonseca can't quite recover over the break. Um, Even the defeats, yeah. I mean, not only in America, it should be in every library, and not only sporting and not only in America. Nori to drop out of the top 40 if he loses tomorrow, says John. Yeah, but like, really? First of all, really? That's not true, John, by the way. Like, I don't know what your sources are, but Cam is 29th currently in the live rankings. And even if he lost in the opening round, actually, like even if he lost in the opening round, he would have been about 35th. I don't know where that top 40 stat is coming from, but it's just not true. He will be losing 170 points soon, though, but that still won't get him out of the top 40. So, yeah, I mean, this stat is just straight up not true. I mean, Rafa eats up slices, but yeah, like either you have to start getting like into his game and grind, or just hit through them, right? I mean, sometimes you will try to do it playing a bit smarter and just constructing the points, slowly building it up until you get an opportunity to clinch the point, basically until you get a ball that you're comfortable with. And if you're someone like Rafa, yeah, you just hit through it and you have enough spin to make it tough for the guy. But for the most part, yeah, you're probably just going to look for for a more pleasant ball. Let's say, just play with solid, controlled aggression, raising the ball, but also not enough to like set it up to the other guy. But basically, you're just hitting, going, of course, low, bending your knees low because you need to against the slice, and then eventually trying to find a more pleasant ball that you're gonna be comfortable with on the attack. But who are these 55 people? Yeah, that's a good question. Automatic 6 ranking spot deduction for awkward backhand? For whom? Ah, for Kamnori. Ah. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I mean that sounds ghosty. That sounds good. That's more or less what I said a second ago. So, did you win? Where is Gustavo Kuerten now? I mean, he's like 50. So, I mean, obviously he's not playing anymore. But yeah, I mean, 47. Sorry to Gustavo. I added 3 more years to his resume, but he retired quite early as well. Well, quite early for current standards. At the time, that was more or less how everyone was retiring, needless to say. But yeah, I mean, if Fonseca wins another slam for Brazil, that will not be surprising at all. Meligeni Alves's uncle, right, was also in the Roland Garros semis, I think, Felipe Meligeni Alves. So it's not like Brazil does not have as Fernando, sorry, not Felipe. It's not like Brazil does not have any other traditions, let's say. Fernando Meligeni in 1999 was the Roland Garros semifinalist, losing to Andrei Medvedev in the semis. But yeah, Guga winning Roland Garros 5 times in 3 years. That was certainly quite an achievement. Well, that would have been an achievement 5 times in 3 years. Obviously, I mean 3 times in 5 years. Ah, you didn't keep score. Okay. Yeah, I mean, someone like Querten, I mean, he kind of revolutionized the clay game, it seems. Like, he was really blasting the ball with that single hander and with the forehand. And I think maybe especially as the surfaces got closer to one another. he did kind of push the sport into a different direction, I guess. Also, a big upset later in his career against Federer at the 2003 Roland Garros, of course. 6-4, 6-4, 6-4, beating him in straights was quite crazy at the time. But yeah, Navone Fonseca, as expected, Fonseca has gone off the court. He really needs that break right now. We'll see if he can find it. Like if we can, refine his energy and hit back in the third set. Yeah, yeah, five times in 3 years would be insane. Unless it was like, I don't know, Adelaide, right? The events that we've had back to back, then it would be possible. But I guess this year we don't really have a ATP Tour event like this, right? It was only a pandemic thing on the ATP Tour, at least, because of course in the Challengers you have like three Tenerife events, for example. 2021 had seven Biela events, but that was also a pandemic resource. Bratislava is twice every single year, once on clay, once on indoor hard. So, by the way, it's 3 a.m. My time, so Los Cabos has also started in the meantime, and Kasper Ruud, Stefanos Tsitsipas are in the second game of the match, the first semi-final. I think that if Jordan Thompson is going to be eliminated today, then that whole event just should be destroyed, because it's boring. If Jordan Thompson loses there, it's going to be boring with just Ruud, Tsitsipas, and Zverev. Interesting question from Nurlan. Damien, if me and John are hanging from a tall building and your right hand is holding me, your left hand is holding John, who would you let go? Nurlan, I have to say that I would save John. And that's because he is paying for my accommodation in Estoril. So, I mean, he's paying for his accommodation. I'm sort of tagging along, but still, that's why I have to save John. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. What do I have to gain after saving? I think after saving Nurlan, maybe Nurlan, you can come up with some sort of an offer or proposition. Maybe you can woo me with something other than your wonderful charm, and maybe then a weekend in Istanbul. But is there an ATP Tour event in Istanbul currently? No. I mean, the Challenger, maybe. Yeah, maybe the Challenger. Although, if I remember correctly, there already was a Turkish person who offered me accommodation in Istanbul if I ever get to the Challenger there. So actually, I don't need you, Nurlan, apparently, because I have opportunity for accommodation in Turkey. So, and people are only for this, right? Like people, friends, relationships, they only exist for that. Like if you go to their city or if you go somewhere for accommodation. So yeah, easy answer, but an interesting question. I have to give you props for that at least. And we are starting again. Fonseca, Navone, third set, first game, 15-0. Navone now finding a pretty nice return. This is a change up, right? Navone being aggressive of the return rather than Fonseca. But I guess it shouldn't be surprising to us, given that the Brazilian teenager is in a bit of a struggle physically. We'll see. I mean, Jakub Menchik, for example, right? I mean, today he was still able to blast the big serves and grind despite being so tired. And the backhand down the line that he found to break for 5-3 in the third, that was quite insane. I'm not saying Fonseca is can do the same because it's like a little bit of a different play style as well. We haven't seen him really in any physical wars yet. Also, because Menchik even in the juniors tour, he played that amazing match against Kuzuhara where he gets taken off the court in a wheelchair. He couldn't really serve in the last game. He was cramping so hard, and he didn't even attend the trophy ceremony because of that. he already got like some medical attention instead. But Fonseca, I don't think I've ever seen him in a match which would be like tough physically on him. Or if it was like that one against Navone, for example, last in 2022 in Sao Leopoldo, um, probably that one was not really. We didn't really see any signs of fatigue there for Fonseca. But I mean, right now we are definitely seeing them, and part of that was also the previous point, by the virtue of which Navone sets up breakpoint, because Fonseca just didn't have an idea as to how to take over that rally, and he went for far too much on the forehand cross, and he makes an error again. I mean, I don't want to say Fonseca is done, but that's kind of how it's looking. We'll see. Maybe he can somehow get some new life force, new energy. Maybe he can become a vampire and suck the life force out of someone in the crowd. Oh yeah, my forearms are definitely beefy and strong. Thankfully, in table tennis, you don't really need that. Definitely, a lot more power comes from like the wrist and stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't say my arms are too beefy. I guess in tennis you don't technically need that either, but it's definitely helpful depending on your play style. Some players get massively massively bulk up, and they get better results after that. But if you see someone like Navone here, for example, I guess he also wouldn't be able to save both John and Nurlan. We also don't know how Nurlan looks, and how much he weighs, for example. So maybe I would only be able to hold John. Maybe Nurlan weighs 250 kilos. Who knows? We don't know that. John should do a poll on this. Whom I should save in that potential situation, instead of that Navone Fonseca poll, which apparently is now less lopsided because of Ghosty. And well, I have to agree with him. Like, Fonseca is really looking out of it right now. Which someone like Navone should just be taking as an invitation, right? To grind him down even harder, if that makes sense. The worst thing definitely for Fonseca is like how tough for him it is right now to take over without committing any error, without much unnecessary risk, because they're really playing very different rallies right now. They're just basically in Navone's wheelhouse. But despite that, it's the Argentinian who cracks first in the next rally. So, it's not a guarantee if he cannot keep his focus. And Fonseca just kind of standing there and getting balls back, he's also able to win this point. So maybe you're just going to see some absolute craziness and, utter madness until the end of this match. It's also very possible. But he cannot be missing returns like this if he's still going to survive in this match, because this isn't, another attempt to go at Navone's feet to go huge on the return. This is just trying to get it back from a 121 kilometers an hour serve, and he's unable to put it in play. So obviously that's something he really shouldn't be doing at the moment, given what his physical condition is. And another missed return. I mean, this one at least of the first serve, but it's still a Navone first serve. And we remember that in the opening set, in 4 games, in 19 points on the Navone serve, Fonseca missed just 1 return. Yeah, right now he's also standing next to his towel, right? We're seeing like a lot more apparent signs of fatigue as well right now, not only just the lessened intensity. I guess lowered intensity. It's promising. Um, Fonseca hitting some big forehands, but it's not enough so far to make Navone miss. And it is enough to for Fonseca to throw out the next ball. A few of these counters or like maybe defensive shots from Navone barely got over the net. In the end, that also led to Fonseca's demise because on that last shot, he really needed to take like one more step forward, maybe two, in order to get a better hit on that, basically. But yeah, 2 love up now for Navone in the third set, and I think he will need a bit of a special effort to blow this, given how Fonseca is looking physically. Or maybe, maybe Fonseca just finds new energy and turns it on and starts hitting winner after winner again. But it just kind of feels like an opportunity that Navone should be enjoying himself in, right? Because this is the type of match that he's very familiar with. Fonseca, on the contrary, like he usually just plays tennis his own manner, and yeah, he reduces his opponents to that extra status that Navone was basically in the opening set. But right now, it's just more of a Navone show, which I don't think is common for Joao. Obviously, Navone can still also have some choking issues. I mean, before this week, he couldn't win. I think a single. Yeah, I think before this week he didn't win a single ATP Tour main draw match. Right? I mean, he lost in Cordoba to Carballes Baena. That was a pretty decent match, but he did blow like one of the last most important games. And there was also that one where he gets crushed by Luciano Darderi in Buenos Aires. So it is uncharted territory for sure for Navona. And as I said earlier, like the points gained potentially for Fonseca, they don't really like. I don't think they would be on his mind yet. For someone like Navone, that additional 100 points for winning a match, this is massive. I mean, this is a guy who won 5 challengers last year, and I don't remember how many of them were 50s. Definitely at least one, probably just one. I think the other four were higher categories, but like still, it's about like almost 2 titles for Navone, so almost 100. Let's say about 8-9 matches usually is what he would be playing for 25 points, sorry, for 100 points. Whereas here, for just beating this one guy who is really tired at the moment, he can gain 100, and he can really like, it can be completely career changing even, especially if he would beat Nori tomorrow. So for Navone, I think that ranking pressure is actually somewhat higher. But we'll see. Now that's one of the best points that Fonseca has played in a while. I didn't see that. Nurlan. Sure, I won't tell Keen if you don't want to. John says that the tournament will die on its arse if he loses today. I mean, yeah, as like a Brazilian thing for sure, but are the semifinals actually, well, they are less exciting if Fonseca isn't there, but is Navone Nori not a good match? Is Baez Cerundolo a good match? I mean, yeah, the atmosphere will not be the same. That's for sure. I don't think it's been a rough swing in South America for sure. Like at all. It's been definitely a lot more interesting than all of these American/Mexican events. Like, don't tell me anyone wants to watch Ruth Tsitsipas in Los Cabos. I mean, I guess there are going to be people who will want to watch that, but I just can't get excited about that one. It feels incredibly meaningless. The thought that I had recently about 250s, and actually this is part of why a story is actually somewhat exciting to me, and I am excited at the prospect of going there, mostly because there's going to be a lot more players who are like, yeah, not exactly, top 10, top 20. So there should be something for like everyone, and there should be some freshness. Whereas a match like Ruth Tsitsipas in the semifinals of Los Cabos, it just feels incredibly meaningless, like irrelevant, because there's no narrative whatsoever from coming for either player. There's no breakthrough coming for either player. There's no new story. There's nothing that we're sort of learning about either player, and basically you're just gonna get Ruud or Tsitsipas in a final, and then it also doesn't matter if they win the title or not. And this is similar to what I said. This is similar to what I said yesterday, not yesterday, last week about the Delray Beach final, where like if Paul or Fritz transcend to big title contenders on a regular basis, it's not going to be because of that much. And it's similar with Ruden or Tsitsipas. Like if they go for, let's say, a big title sometime soon, if Tsitsipas is back to being Grand Slam contender, if Ruud once again reaches the final at Roland Garros, it's not going to be because of their semi-final at Los Cabos. So this is why I actually like these events a lot more, because the stakes are actually high for the players. Whereas I don't buy into the stakes being high for Ruud and Tsitsipas when they're playing the semifinals in Los Cabos. Like I can't possibly even like get this excited about that match. And that's why I said that if Jordan Thompson gets eliminated, this event gets boring for me, because Jordan Thompson is the only player for whom in Los Cabos there is an actual narrative, and there is something that can sort of change his career if it happens. And that would of course be winning his maiden ATP Tour title, but even making his first final on hard courts, that's again pretty huge. And in the Golden Swing here we have a lot of these players. Obviously, Diaz Acosta was a prime example. Darderi was a prime example. This week we have a lot of them. Cerundo Lobaez probably on the verge of pushing it, but still, neither of these guys has been doing that well. And still, I mean, it does seem to me like a much more exciting matchup than Ruud or Tsitsipas. These are still guys who can sort of achieve a bit more in their careers. I don't know if Ruud and Tsitsipas can, and if so, it definitely won't be caused by the Los Cabos semifinal. That's just a thought that I had on the elevator ride a day or two ago, and I guess that kind of explains my state towards 250s, 500s, and how like if the players there are sort of guys who have done it before and guys who don't really get that much out of the event anyway, it's kind of hard for me to be impressed, excited. Whereas, of course, a thousand probably works a bit different because, well, then you have a lot of narratives and for anyone really who gets it. I think even if Alcaraz was here, further down, it wouldn't really change it either, because he kind of has that big story around him now about, of course, post Cincinnati and post Wimbledon in general, not getting a title, then for a while not getting to a semi, well, just to a semi he was getting, but not even getting to a final since Cincinnati. So for Alcaraz, it would have been a little different. Whereas Ruud and Tsitsipas, to me, like them winning at 250 is absolutely irrelevant, or making the final. So I'd much rather see a couple of players like here, Navone, Fonseca, who are both fighting for their lives, sort of, and career-changing achievements, literally. I think Fonseca has just missed it. He has some fight left in him for sure. I mean, he's pumping up the crowd here, but he just misses this backhand, which is painful because this could have been a break point. But it's clearly out. I mean, the umpire went down to check it, but even from the initial feed, you could see it's clearly out. Although this also can be misleading. Today there was this overrule in Paw, where Prismic was playing greedy, and Unfortunately, like five, it was a very important point. 5 all in the third break point. Ridi hits this +1 forehand, which I still have no idea if it was in or out. From the initial feed, it looks out, like miles out. However, when they show the slow mo replay, it actually kind of looks in. So um, all I'm trying to say is that from every single camera, you're gonna get a bit of a different outlook probably on the ball. But here it did look very clearly out. Anyway, 3-1 up as Fonseca was attacking on the next point. However, he can't quite control this shorter defensive shot from Navone again. He had to come up with something, had to like lift it with the forehand, but no. Oh, okay. That was almost a Diaz Acosta type of return when Diaz Acosta hit these two insane from once against Jari. But it turns out the serve was out in the first place. So. But yeah, 1-3 down, Fonseca once again getting into a longer rally with Navone, and he pulls the trigger out of nowhere. I mean, this is legendary stuff, really. So out of position, so tired. Again, gets that ball at the sort of waist high level on the forehand, and from that position, he just unleashes absolute terror. Maybe not even waist high. I'm underplaying it a little bit. It's a tad higher than that, you know. Waist height, he wouldn't be able to flatten it out like this. But this is sort of reminiscent of some of the shots that an injured Alcaraz was hitting in Rio last year, right, in the final. I don't think Fonseca is injured per se, but he is definitely in a big physical crisis that I find it kind of hard that to believe that he will get out of this, because it's been there for a while now, right? It's been like 5-6 games at least. So there was a question from Nurlan about something. Why do you think top players always make excuses every time they lose? Iga was apparently tired. I mean, she was asked about reasons for the loss, so what is she gonna lie? I mean, she was probably a bit tired, you know, she was going for back-to-back titles. But always it's about balancing that line between praising your opponent and saying you didn't play well and you're not satisfied with your performance. But I mean, John definitely can't wait for the day you become a member. Yeah, it would be very cool for Root to pick up another 250. And of course, he has so many titles above the 250 level, right? But the 250 level, he kind of hasn't been too successful at. So Jordan Thompson is winning it all. Absolutely. I'm hoping for that. These guys push so hard on the forehand these days, their legs swing all the way around. Oh wow, what a backhand down the line from Navone. It's actually and Fonseca actually gets it back. But again, it seems that Navone has found the line. Super heavy forehand down the line. And it's gonna be a break point for Navone now. With a couple of extremely precise shots here. Yeah, he has found the line for sure now on the replay. It's clearly visible. And this could be, a bit of a point that ends the match for sure if Navone can take it. As I've said a few times, maybe it's not obvious for him to keep holding until the end of the match, but just with the physical state of Fonseca right now, how much it takes out of him to even win points. This was also like this came somewhat unexpectedly, right? It was like middle of the Navone with this backhand down the line return winner attempt. He was so far out of the court. I mean, he was out of the doubles alley. Obviously, would have been a great shot if he lands it, but it is deuce. This physical dip from Fonseca came kind of unexpectedly, right? Like up until maybe 6-2, 3-all, he was fine, and then suddenly you can see that like it's just not as easy for him to take over. It's not as easy for him to even be aggressive, and suddenly we are playing all these rallies that Navone is comfortable at. Again, Fonseca tries to go for the same forehand down the line that he's been hitting incredibly well the entire match, but this time it's wide. One more break point for the Argentinian. Yeah, like for example, if Cam Nori wins the title here, I also wouldn't be too excited, honestly, because I would also kind of feel like there's no narrative in it. Although he would defend his title at least, but definitely it would be more sort of meaningful, I think, for Baez, Cerundolo, or especially Navone or Fonseca, obviously. And this time Navone is a little safer with his returning. He eventually forces an error out of Fonseca. 4-1 up, double break. He's cruising towards the finish. That's at least how it would appear. Kasper Ruud up a break in the first set on Stefanos Tsitsipas. Well, theoretically, I could finish off the stream here and start watching that one, but no, I'm just gonna go to bed. It's gonna be like 4 a.m. anyway. So, as I said a couple of times, also this week, like the Mexican time zone for Europeans is very tough. Although if I wasn't watching this one until the very end, it's possible that I would wake up for Zverev Thompson. Yeah, but yeah, I mean Fonseca Navone, definitely the match of the day for me, or at least one of them. Fonseca now receiving some treatment on his right thigh. Again, tough to say what exactly is bothering him. Is it just like cramps? Is it just fatigue, or is there actually some sort of a muscular problem? But we've known for a while, right, that he is not exactly at his sharpest anymore physically. And of course, tomorrow, this semifinal, the winner of this semifinal will be playing second against Kamnori, whereas the first players on court will be Baez and Cerundolo. Looks like this isn't even a medical timeout properly, just on the changeover though. And so we should be playing in a second. Also, tomorrow will be the doubles final, the doubles, one of the doubles semis, right, in Rio, since it's Saturday, but that's on the second court. Also, some wheelchair event apparently. I don't know, John. How have you been watching that wheelchair thing? And Cuneda is playing as well. I should definitely go to see the goat tomorrow. Then, or at least the goat in male wheelchair, because in female wheelchair, obviously that's Esther Berger. Does Fonseca have a well-known coach? I don't know. I mean, probably it's someone known in the Brazilian or Latin America world, but he's not known to me even by name. Let's say that. I'm gonna check, but Guilherme Teixeira, however you wanna read that. Hmm. I mean, doesn't seem like that guy is even too well known, honestly, because when I'm typing him into Google, it shows me some random footballer who's also named like this. He does have an ATP Tour profile, though, and that guy, Guilherme Teixeira, he is 36 and was ranked in the 2000, well, 1600s, let's say, in doubles in 2006. So yeah, it doesn't seem like he's got a well-known coach. No. Yeah, at least in our, let's say, at least here, or let's say in the tennis world, I don't think this guy has made a name for himself. No, maybe in Brazil he's more of a figure. Maybe John, as a new resident of Brazil, can tell us if he's ever heard of Guilherme Teixeira. But I have not. I honestly didn't even know what the name of Fonseca's coach was. This game looks to be going Navone's way pretty quickly. Great angle on the backhands. But Fonseca actually gets it back with a slice. I mean, he's still fighting, you gotta credit that, but it's just an uphill battle. That's 5-1 Navone. Very close to the finish line now, very close to that semifinal. And earlier I was supposed to check, and I eventually didn't, where Navone would be in the rankings currently, currently after a potential quarterfinal win. And for Navone, who of course breaks the top 100 after this week, only needed one win to get there, he would be around 75. So he would actually have the same amount of points as Alex Mikkelsen, for example. Obviously, 5 challengers being on his ranking, that's quite huge for him. Who handles the loss best after? I mean, Federer late in his career, sure. Early on, definitely not. Um, I don't know. I mean, does anyone come to me right away? First of all, I mean, a lot of events don't do press after losses as well, but who handles losses best? I mean, Pegula, because she's kind of joking about it sometimes, maybe, but I don't know. I mean, generally speaking, we have a lot of gracious losers on the tour. I think definitely it would be easier to like point out players who maybe don't handle it too well because they are few, rather than point out someone who handles it well because most do, or at least that's what they show. But yeah, I don't know if Federer is a particularly fortunate example, especially the famous interview about the return from Djokovic on match point at the US Open comes to mind. Although obviously later on in his career and in general, he definitely never really did that again. Well, definitely not Tsitsipas, right? After the few tools he has about Rublev, which is true, but well, or at least in the sense that Steph meant it, it is true. But 5-2, quick game for Fonseca. Let's see if he can still threaten the Navone serve after the changeover. Alcaraz takes it well, says Sean. Yeah, I was thinking about it, but like honestly, yeah, it's what I said. I think that a lot of players take it well, and it's just kind of hard to single out someone because like I can't compare Alcaraz and I don't know, let's say Sinner in terms of taking losses. No, I mean in press, I think they're both okay, and that's it really. And a lot of players will be just fine. I don't know if I can't really, at least right now, I'm not thinking of someone who would be like exceptionally good at that, I guess. Which also, like, how would you be exceptionally good at handling losses, Because that also can depend on like your personal preference a little bit. Like, do you prefer players coming to press and saying, No, 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 it's fine. I mean, that's okay. Or do you prefer them actually being honest, and saying, I'm frustrated about how I played? When you say something poor, when you say that you played poorly, for example, does that mean that you handled the loss like not right in press? uh, to me, no, but maybe for someone it actually would. Maybe some people actually just expect players to be like, no, credit to the opponent. I couldn't do anything today. Couldn't do anything more against him today, or something like that. Like, that's not what I want to hear, at least, right? I mean, I want to hear the truth, the brutal truth, which is why Yelena Ostapenko is a great player, I think, in the off the court and in the interviews, because she's just gonna give you that truth. And it shouldn't be considered that funny, like when she has that interview on grass where she says that my level was better today and I showed it, or something like that, and people start laughing, and like it's a clip that people throw around on Twitter. I don't see anything weird about that. But again, as I said, like, there could be different opinions on that, and then maybe we also treat handling losses well or poorly based on these references too. Anyway, Mariano Navone 5-2 up in the third set. Let's see if he can hold this, and serve it out on the first opportunity. Some bigger ball striking from Fonseca here, backhand down the line, backhand down the middle again, gives him the first point. Love 30 now after a sloppy forehand +1. So maybe Navone, just like Kalinskaya today, will need a couple of attempts to serve it out. It's a pretty tough smash, but Fonseca is getting every ball back now. How is he still in this point? That's insane. And he actually manages to win it with such a massive forehand too. He has to, like, sort of, stop after that and stretch his legs a bit, but I mean, wow. The defense from him, this point, that was probably the best defensive point we've seen this match, and it's not coming from Navone. It's actually coming from Joao Fonseca, who eventually gets his chance and just blasts the inside out forehand for a winner. Once the ball was, like, yeah, just sitting up for him a little bit more. So he has 3 break points here. Obviously, it's still one more break for Navone even if Fonseca wins this game, but it's a great effort to even get into that position for sure, especially considering how this rally looked, especially the smash that Navona hit, which was a pretty tough one already. Like, the higher shot from Fonseca was definitely quite good, but yeah, the fact that Joao even got that ball back. Now Navone with a great angle backhand cross saves 1 breakpoint. Second breakpoint has also been saved with an error for Fonseca, so the 17-year-old really needs to be quite cautious on the next one here, as more opportunities might not come. But he gets the break. What a combination here once again with the backhand down the line and then the finish of cross. Seemed like Navone got that last counter back with interest, but it's just Fonseca once again stepping into the court and showing that incredible ball striking prowess. 5-3 Navone, but now Fonseca will be serving and, well, he's still in it. He's still in it. Hanging in barely, but he's still in it. Huh. Maybe, John, but I still think it's optimistic. It's just a few games, you know. Kind of reminds me of how when I was watching Murray and Paul in Aix-en-Provence last year. I was in Cagliari actually at the time, so I was sort of running between my computer and the court. But there the third set was only 6-2, and there were 9K people on the Challenger stream, and I was hoping that it would be the tiebreak in the third set because then it would go to 10K, and it would be, well, I don't know if it would be the first time. The guys from the Challenger Tour also didn't know because they only have access to the overall viewing stats. But well, these days are over anyway because right now in the new with the new provider with the new UI, we can't see how many people are watching the stream anymore. At least we can't. I don't know if they can, but we can't. 15 all now as Navone tracks down this Fonseca volley. Oh, that's a wild double fault as well. So maybe that last game, that was just one last hooray. 15-30, and Navone for the first time will be 2 points away from the match, although on return. Okay, Fonseca saves. I mean, saves. He gets a point though. Gets it to 30 all. Going for a couple of stronger forehands inside out again, and one of them gets an error out of Navone. Sometimes the variety of height that Navone brings in is very helpful in this matchup, but sometimes it also really sets Fonseca up for these massive shots. Fonseca serve and volleying here should have this smash, but yeah, the legs are gone, and we all know that it's not easy to hit smashes anymore when that's the case. And this is going to be a match point for Navone now in pretty brutal fashion as well, as Fonseca has already hit a lot of tougher smashes in this match. Big inside in here saves him the first match point though. Navone may be a little tentative on the backhand return. Didn't get too much height on it. Didn't get too much depth on it. Didn't get too much angle on it. And Fonseca is, you know, uh, he's gonna keep cracking every ball. I mean, he kind of has to at this stage, or at least every ball he feels comfortable with. But this next forehand, yeah, he's hitting his right leg as well, or left leg. Sorry, left leg. Yeah, I think it's like a bit of a reaction of like, why can't you be working properly? But yeah, that's what it is. And that's the match as Joao Fonseca misses the forehand down the line, again trying to just absolutely crack it. Mariano Navone is even saying sorry because he had like a bit of a longer, talk with his box, but there is a hug at the net now. And a long discussion between discussion is maybe a strong word, but a bit of a talk between the two guys, of course, friendly. And yeah, I mean, what a win for Navone, even though Fonseca's intensity dipped. And obviously he never really recovered it. But it's still a great win, and you can see all the emotions as well. And this is what you're not gonna get, in Los Cabos. This is not what you're gonna get from Rudor Tsitsipas, right? But this is actually the emotions that you can get, because their players, I mean, they have such high stakes, and 100 points for this one win. This is absolutely huge, and of course, this is basically the first week that Navone wins matches on the ATP Tour, so this is also pretty insane from him. But yeah, I would still say that this is a great win. And the stats now: Fonseca 50 unforced errors, 30 on the forehand. But definitely it felt it. Some of that was caused by the fatigue and just Navone trying to survive against him long enough, eventually getting more and more rallies into his ballpark, into his wheelhouse, and eventually getting the job done as well. But of course, for Fonseca, this was still a phenomenal week, and really only positives from that he can take, because no one expected him really to make the quarters, I think, and it's still just an insane showing for him, even given his potential. The way that he was composed throughout the week in front of the home crowd, and also the backhand, which I wouldn't call it a liability previously, but it certainly wasn't as dangerous as the whole week here. And eventually, of course, that's still absolutely massive for him to make the quarters, beat Fils, beat Garin, play a great match for a set and a half against Navone. And yeah, as the banner tells you, Navone will play Nori tomorrow. The other semifinal being Coria Baez. Serundolo Baez. So 3 Argentinians against Cameron Nori. Basically, Cameron Nori against the nation of Argentina. I think John is going to be there again tomorrow. So probably is going to get you some content as well from that. Ashley is already saying thanks, and I'm also saying thanks. We'll see you guys sometime soon. Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.
Ready? Play.
Señoras y señores, el fisioterapeuta ha sido llamado al campo. Mariano invitado. Senhoras e senhores, o vencedor, Thiago Monteiro. Aplausos também para Carlos Alcaraz. Desejamos melhoras e até a próxima.